Memphis, 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 Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
Yo, what's up, Grizz Nation? Welcome back to another post-game show here with Grizz 901, part of the Bluff City Media Network. I'm your host, Daniel Greer, and we have a fun-filled show today. Bane, 49 big ones, baby. God, that dude looks so good. Shout out to Desmond Bane. The Grizzlies get the win on the road, out in the Motor City, out in Detroit, a game that they had to win. I'm jacked up. We have a great show for you today. We're going to get into a quick recap of the game, and then we're going to go into a little bit more in-depth analysis. We're going to hear about some big players over in Detroit, as well as Memphis, but Detroit, that I know a lot of people have questions about, as James Wiseman, Ivy. There's so many people you want to hear about. But we're going to have somebody who is on the ground giving you that. He is our college basketball expert. He's Greg Waddell of Sleepers Media. So let's go ahead and get the show started. Yo, Greg. What up, man? What up? Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. It's been I've been waiting for this moment for years, you could say.
All right, so the chat's already filling up. It's all about Desmond Bane. I don't know if you have seen the game. I imagine you have. What's your first thoughts on Desmond Bane? Because there's nobody else we can talk about but Des. 49 points. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I had this whole monologue prepared at halftime as I'm watching this of like, yeah, we shout out to anybody who watches both of these franchises. What a miserable season it's been. Obviously, there's so much more upside for Memphis fans than there is Detroit fans. But, one of my main talking points I wanted to get to was like, you guys look like a team whose best player is Desmond Bane. And then he popped off for 49. So that's something my best players don't do here in Detroit. He's good. When he catches fire, he is just one of the best assets a team could have in the league. And I think he's fully unlocked when he's in a complimentary role. But shout out to him for carrying y'all to a victory tonight, because you certainly needed every one of those 49 points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Greg, thank you for joining us as always. We have been friends since COVID days, I would say, back in the locker room. If you don't know what the locker room was, the locker room turned into Spotify Live. And so it was a place that we all kind of met and gave us all the voice. And so it was really cool to kind of meet you and Carter, who is your co-host, who is just a straight up good dude. I love Carter. He's crazy. He reminds me so much of my co-host. Like, and Nate is here. He's talking about Jan Sport Bane over here. But like Carter reminds me so much of Nate, where they can go off the rails and then sometimes they get serious and you're like, wait, hold on. Are we being funny or are we being serious?
Yeah, specimens. That's what I would call both of them without having ever met Nate face to face. I feel if you're comparing him to Cart, I feel confident calling them both specimens. Sometimes you just got to go host mode. You got to play to your talent that you have on the roster, right? And Carter certainly is that for me. I see Nate in the comments, actually. He said, thanks for the night off, Greg. At first, I thought that was just a Grizzlies fan implying like, thanks for your Pistons giving us the night off, which honestly fits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so Nate, yeah, he's with his wife probably. I would imagine she's probably thankful for this night off because we are here with all 82 games. A night off here and there for us is never bad. But, man, we're going to get into a lot of the game tonight. And so let's just go off the top rope. As we always do this, it's very simple. I'm going to go ahead and give our Grizz 901 player of the game. You know who it's got to be. It's got to be Des Bane. 49 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 3-pointers. All right, so did you know a lot about Desmond Bane prior to just kind of watching this and seeing this? Because the Grizzlies...
I did.
Okay.
Like, I draft love of some circles, right? Like I remember I'm a big college basketball guy,
Right.
and there was a big deal made about Bane coming into the draft of like, should you take this guy or should you not? Like, is he one dimensional? Is he not? And he kind of slipped further than I think some people thought he would. But yeah, I look, I love his game. I think like the parallels from a Detroit fan's perspective for the first couple of years they're both in the league was he would always get compared to Sadiq Bey on our side, who actually also had a tendency to just pop off randomly for like a 50-point night. Like he did that. The difference is Bane is a much more complete player. He plays both ends of the ball. I think Bane honestly has like in an ideal world when John Morant is back, I think there's a world where Desmond Bane makes an all-star team one day. The same could not be said for my sharpshooter, Sadiq Bey, before we traded him. So, yeah, I love his game. I mean, it was fun to watch tonight. And luckily, I'm not as emotionally invested as I used to be in watching Detroit try and win basketball games anymore. Otherwise, I'd be cursing this guy tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Desmond Bane, he played amazing. And it was the fact of he was able to pull up anywhere he wanted to. And he was hot, and he knew he was hot, and he was smirking because he knew that, you know what, that probably shouldn't have went in. But when you're feeling it, dude, it's as big as the ocean. And so shout out to Desmond Bane, the Grizzlies #1 player of the game, 49 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 long balls. He did much more than that. He had a steal and an assist as well. But a little bit of update real quick. And I know you are the college basketball guy. Right now, I am currently watching the Memphis Tigers against VCU. The Rams of the so I guess it's the Vince Williams versus Derrick Rose game, I guess.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm also a little bit of a gambler myself. I probably don't need to say that to you, DG. You're well familiar with that by now. But Memphis -2.5 was on the card today. Tigers have been letting me down, but they got a chance to backdoor this one here. And I have kept tabs on that as well, knowing we'd probably talk about it. Penny Hardaway with some lineup changes for this one. That didn't work out so well.
Yeah, no, it looked ugly early on. We're going to get into that. Our third segment today is going to be about the Tigers, just for the simple fact of one, you know more about it than most, especially outside an outsider's view of what Penny and the team looks like. And so stay tuned for that. Second segment is going to be very easy. We're going to give you some Grizz trivia, and I know you're not going to get it.
We'll see. It's
going to be some college basketball information. But let's go ahead and keep going on the game real quick. We're going to recap that. There's 16 seconds there in the Tigers game. If you're watching that, it is tied up 72-72. But let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the game tonight. The Grizzlies played well. Kinda, not really. Like the first half was gross, like absolutely disgusting. But finally, that they showed up, and honestly, it was a better half out of the Pistons as well. And so the first half, I think, was right home. The only thing bad about the Pistons on one side, they had 18 points in the fourth quarter. It was 34-18 in the fourth quarter. That's what you chalk this entire game up to, because there's no reason that this game should be talked about as much as it is. But the fact that Desmond Bane went off for 49 and the fact that it was a big turnaround in the fourth quarter. But let's get into some of the stats. 24 points for Jaren, only 4 rebounds, which was that's a whole other segment to talk about. But 11 rebounds out of Biyombo. Roddy looked okay. He was fine. Derrick Rose, he was a guy. He was wearing a uniform tonight. And then Bane had 49 points, 6 rebounds. Hey, he had 8 assists now. So they're changing up the stats on me. But Aldama looked okay. Shout out to 2 guys, John Conchar and Jalen Noel. Conchar 2 of 2 from deep tonight, 7 rebounds, which were big. He had assists. He had great defense tonight, 9 points overall. Jalen Noel, who actually carried them a lot in the third quarter, especially when they went away from Bane. It was 12 points out of him, but 2 rebounds and 4 assists. So shout out to them. Let's talk about the Pistons a little bit. Greg, Bojan. This is Bojan Bogdanovic, who I had 4 plus 3-pointers. Huge. Thank you for that. Plus 190. 22 points, 4 deep ones, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Isaiah Stewart sucked for me tonight. 9.7 rebounds, 17 points out of Jalen Duren, and 11 rebounds. Let's talk about Jalen Duren real quick. What has he meant to this team? But also, what has Jalen Duren just kind of showed you personally, coming from college, coming from Memphis, and what he's actually shown you on the professional level?
He's shown a lot. Like he's a competitor. I think this is one of Troy Weaver's best moments, which he has not had many of as the GM of this franchise. But coming into that draft, the Pistons had one pick. It was the 5th pick in the draft. They were set to take Jaden Ivey. Everybody knew that, and then just kind of worked his magic and stormed back into the late lottery to nab Duren when Charlotte ended up with Mark Williams. And I think that's going to end up the shining thing on his resume whenever his tenure ends in Detroit, because Duren is a starting center in this league, and he will be that for a very long time. You need to remember how young this kid is. He was young for his grade in college. He just turned 20. Yeah. Like for him to be doing what he is doing, just turning 20 is insane. And honestly, there's a lot of similarities to how quickly he impacted the game at the NBA level as Jaren did when he went 1 year at Michigan State to all of a sudden he's in the NBA with, 4 block games and hitting threes. So Duren has a different game. It's a lot of, just muscle ball. Like he's an athlete. He's smart. He's really good as a role man. But what scares me, which applies to all of Detroit's young guys, is he knows nothing at the NBA level other than losing. And I don't care how individually wired you are as a winner or a competitor. At a certain point, if all you know around you is that, it's going to build bad habits. And I think he's done the best job he possibly can to withstand that and contribute. But it's starting to scare me, man. They really need to retool things around him to change that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's looked bad at times. I think it's because of the young roster. But I do want to ask the question that 88 has asked is it about the coaching? Because the roster looks good. It's young. It's the youngest roster, I believe, in a long, long time to start the season. But obviously, it's the youngest roster in the NBA this season. What is it? Is it the coaching?
It's a mix. Look, I'm not happy whatsoever with Monty Williams. I liked the hire when they made it. I thought they needed to make a splashy hire. I don't think they needed to necessarily throw him as much money as they did, but that's probably what it would take to convince a guy like Monty Williams to come from the West Coast to Detroit, right? Look, he clearly is holding a personal grudge with Jaden Ivey. That is what is happening. And I despise that. I'm not even the biggest Jaden Ivey guy. If you go back and listen to anything I've said through the years, like I think he has a lot of toxic traits as a player that Monty Williams is trying to iron out of him. But the simple truth is, if you're going to be a bad basketball team, if you're going to play all these young guys, if you're going to just lose games, there is no reason to have Ivey sitting and watching it over and over and over again with how productive he was for the last 2 months of last season while Cade Cunningham was out. So I think the hard stance that Ivey's not one of his guys has affected the locker room. I think in general, I think the guys like Jaden Ivey, and by the guys, I mean Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and, the guys that matter going forward on this team. And I think it's hard to see a guy get antagonized by the head coach so clearly and try and play through that on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, it's always weird when there seems to be he's picking on him in a sense. And that's what it seems like a little bit of he's not his type of a player. But I know you didn't love Jaden Ivey coming out of college. I think that was kind of well known amongst the people in general within Detroit, but also, people that follow you. What has impressed or depressed about you so far within Jaden Ivey's game as of this point?
It's a good question. And I think when I'm done with my answer, it's going to sound like I'm a full-blown Jaden Ivey hater, which I don't intend to. But he, more or less, he has been the player that I thought he would be in the NBA, which is why I didn't love him coming out of college. My scouting report, and I'm not a scout by any means. That's not what I do. I don't break down film and evaluate guys. I like to think I have a good basketball IQ and can speak to what I see. Jaden Ivey in college was an all-time bad body language guy who was the worst defender at his position in the Big Ten Conference, even though he had the best physical athletic gifts of any player in the conference at that position. And if he didn't have the ball in his hands late in games, he pouted. He did not step up and elevate his team in big moments. And offensively, he was really a tunnel vision, get downhill with his right-hand guy. Now, he was good enough in college that nobody could stop him from getting to his right hand and going over you and finishing around you. But outside of the full speed to the rim to the right hand, he didn't have much else. And he was developing the jumper, and, it went in a decent amount from a catch and shoot perspective, but it wasn't something you wanted to live with. More or less, that's what he's done in the NBA. He was an abysmal defender his rookie season. I fully believe that's why Monty Williams took the approach he did coming into the year, is because Jaden Ivey was the worst defender on the team. And when he had the great 2 months, you can look at the numbers. He averaged 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists the final 2 months of the season when Cade Cunningham was out last year. It was mostly just getting downhill to his right and doing the one thing he's good at. So on a tanking team, that can work. He can be super productive. And the sad news is this team is still tanking. So if Jaden Ivey's not a part of your future, you want him playing and putting up those numbers so he's a valuable trade asset for you. And if he is part of your future, he needs to get reps to get better. And either way, it's being mismanaged, and he's clearly not improving even in the limited opportunities he's getting.
Yeah, it's been weird. And as the comments are coming in, Chantel Norwood says that he was the same way with Ayton. And so he kind of held a grudge toward Ayton a little bit. And so there's a lot of people where they're in Phoenix, the fans of the Suns, who didn't like Monty. And so who knows if that's the type of a coach he is. But he I don't know, like Dak Daniels said, he did not look good tonight. He just didn't. And that's fine. But I don't know who did look good at times. Like Cade was fine. He didn't look great tonight at all either. Like it just looked like it was a messy game overall. It just looked like nobody stood out. And that's what's scary is you eventually have to, with a young team, you have to have people that rise to the top a little bit. Just as this Grizzlies team, we have so many players that are playing that shouldn't be playing because of injuries. It's all about who's going to rise to the top. And we've seen, with our side, Vince Williams, he's obviously risen. Roddy, Aldama, and Konchar played well tonight. He's been very much down, and it's kind of been up the last 2 games. He's played okay. But mostly those guys should not be playing NBA basketball. And that's what's scary. So last thing we're going to hit on before we deep dive in our second segment about some of the guys is what do you feel about Detroit? Is it positive, or do you think they're still early stages of rebuilding?
I wouldn't say early stages of rebuild, because they have enough young pieces that I think are long-term good NBA players, even if they're not that yet. I don't know if the rebuild is going to conclude with the same front office that currently is here. That's sort of the scary part, is this was supposed to be the year you take steps forward towards competing for a play-in. And that's clearly not going to happen. They're going to finish likely with the worst record in the league unless something drastic changes. I think they need to make a drastic move, quite frankly. And I'm not advocating for trade all your resources for Zach LaVine move. But if you don't do something, this team is absolutely headed for the lottery again, for the top 3 pick. And look, this is a down draft. This isn't a year where Victor Wembanyama is sitting there and you can justify December 6th saying, let's lose for the next 4 months again. So I'm frustrated by it. I think at bare minimum, you feel good that Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson are 3 guys you absolutely want in a Pistons uniform for the next 3 to 4 years. I think it's pivotal that you surround those guys with veteran shooters. And there are none on this roster. There just are none. And Bogey's back. He looked pretty good. He's looked good in a couple games now. But Killian Hayes, that experiment has to end. Alec Burks has been slumping since he got here. You can shuffle the bigs around Isaiah Stewart, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley. All of them do similar things. And look, the last thing I'll say, I know there's a lot of discussion on, is Cade actually going to be a franchise guy or not? I don't know if he is. But I fully believe the videos that came out with the Team USA stuff this summer, where when you surrounded Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren pick and rolls with good basketball players, they were the best 2 players on the floor, because Cade Cunningham is a genius IQ level guy. who we haven't even gotten to see him make genius reads because they're not open with the guys that are on the floor with him. So I just really hope you get to see it. That requires a total revamp of this roster around those three guys. And where that leaves Jaden Ivey, I have no idea.
Yeah. One, Nate did say we should get Bojangles. That's what we call Bojanovic, whatever his name is. We like Bojangles. We would like to have him. He's actually the son of our coach, Coach Jenkins. He's not really, but they look the same. Or it could be the same.
I'm trying to trade machine trades right now. Like the problem is all the guys who are on the floor for you tonight that aren't Jaron and Desmond Bain were like not guys I want.
That's the thing.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
All we have is picks. If you want to pick, we got you. But besides
we can make that work. We get throw in Kenny Lofton Jr. just for the vibes, and I'll make that happen.
We can definitely make that happen. Kenny Lofton is available. We will say that. Let's go ahead and get into our first commercial real quick. We'll do the quick one, 42 seconds here. Talking a little bit about the FAU. I know you love FAU, so I think you might enjoy this. But looks like the Tigers are up 3 with 32 seconds and the ball with a foul. We'll be right back.
Has FAU somersaulted over a lot of other teams as like your most aggravating fan base?
Oh, easily. They just think they are so elite because they made this one run. You won this one fluky ass game where there were 6 or 7 different calls. Everyone were up in arms about like, what are we talking about? And it's not like a thing where they're like, hey, Memphis, great game. You guys are great competitors. I can't wait to see what the future holds between us. Because if they said that, I would respect them. I don't respect FAU fans. I don't.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, that was our Tigers Untapped, guys. Make sure you tune to them. They do a lot of the football, but also a lot of the college basketball for Memphis, and so it'll be a fun show, especially if they win against VCU. That'll be a good game for sure. So real quick from Nate, you can have Jake LaRavia, Malibu's most wanted. I think they call it Jaravia. I think that's what his nickname is.
Hey, Jake LaRavia, one of my all-time man crushes as college basketball players in the last decade. So I can be talked into that. I like him.
All right, well, we can talk into that real quick. All right, so let's get into a little bit of the Grizz trivia real quick. And so I know you're not going to get this because I'm smart and I've figured out this myself. But how well do you know your Grizzlies? How well do you know your college basketball? Greg Waddell coming at you right now. So I will preface this with saying, I think that this statistic, and this is a 1 of 1. I don't believe, since it has actually happened, I don't think anybody else in college basketball has done it since. So it might be just a top tier room, 1 of 1, but this gentleman plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. So in Division I men's basketball, one player, could be more, but I think it's just one. At the time, it was only 1 of 1, has had 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, and 200 steals in their career. 1 of 1. 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, and 200 steals. Which Memphis Grizzly is this?
I think I'm going to feel really stupid if I'm wrong with this. I think that's David Roddy.
Ooh. I don't want to tell you you're wrong, but you're wrong.
Oh no.
Chat.
So I was gonna say no brainer Gilliard, but I don't think he got the rebounds.
Not Gilliard either.
So is it Kenny Lofton?
He played tonight. Well, they all played tonight. He played meaningful minutes tonight.
Oh my God, who is it? Xavier Tillman.
No.
Who?
You should know that if it's Xavier Tillman because Michigan State.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd softball me, but like none of these other guys were good in college. Who is it?
Let me give it to you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I did not watch one Purdue-Fort Wayne game the entirety of John Konchar's tenure. So there you go.
John Conchar, the only player in Division I history to record 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, and 200 steals. You didn't know that, like, obviously, but you didn't know that he was somewhat decent in college, I guess.
No, I'm so glad you didn't make me keep guessing, because I would have guessed every other player on the roster before John Conchar. I couldn't. I normally pride myself on knowing where guys went to college. Could not have told you where John Conchar went to college. Thought he was a made-up name.
Creative player. John Conchar was the actual dude at Purdue Fort Wayne, which obviously he would be. He's the only NBA player that's come out of there. But he was very good for them, actually. It's funny.
Do we have a stats and info department at Grizz 901? Can I get a check on David Roddy's numbers? I bet he's closer than people would think to those tiers that you just listed.
Wow. Listen, we'll do it real quick while we're live on the air. It is what it is. People can wait. Let's go David Roddy career statistics. How close do you think he would be?
I think close. I really thought I had it when you teed up those categories, because he was like a do everything guy.
Man, I need to find his college. Just give me all his professional. 1 second. Because he was a do everything for the Colorado State. Okay, here we go. Let's give me his double doubles. Here we go. All right, Sports Reference. Now we're looking at totals. All right, so he only had 91 games, 3 years.
That would kill you. I thought he was a 4-year guy. Oh.
That's what's going to hurt you. So he only had, let me look at points, 1406. Not as good as John Conchar. His total rebounds were 676, not quite 1,000. Steals were 80 and assists were 219. He's not your John Conchar. I get it though.
Apparently not. No. Apparently my vision of what David Roddy was in college is just way better than he actually was also. I have a thing, if you can't tell, with me asking if you would trade me Kenny Lofton. I have a thing for like overweight men. It's one of my weaknesses, DG.
Listen, we'll give you Junior and Roddy. Ooh, you cashed, by the way.
Hey, I was so scared about that. I'm so glad you saw that at the same time I did. I was about to melt down if that half-court shot went in.
Wow. All right, so the Tigers win tonight, 85-80. I believe that's what the score was. It could have been more than that. They took the score off the screen. But they won by 5, I do believe. It was more than 2.5 for Greg over here. If you don't follow Greg, which you probably don't already, you might just be meeting him. Greg's a good dude. We try to celebrate the good ones, and Greg is a good one. Him and Carter with Sleepers Media. They do a lot of the college basketball. And so it's a lot of fun, but there's context to just your entertainment, right? And so I enjoy them. I've always enjoyed them. But if you don't follow them, go ahead. You can follow them over at Sleepers Media on Twitter. And so that'll be a good time over there. But also, if you want to join their Discord, like I do, it is $10 a month, but it's well worth it for the discourse. It's well worth it.
It's a little pricey too. We know that. I don't enjoy being the like, hey, pay for me. Like I don't like being that guy. But we had a bunch of people this summer when we started doing daily episodes. People were like asking in the comments for a Discord, and we have no idea how Discord works. And I had no interest in managing a Discord. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, we'll try this out and see. And somehow it's turned into like 90 of our closest internet friends, all just loving discussing basketball every day. And you're in there, which is a bonus. Yep. So join. We'd love to see you in there. And thanks for the plug, Daniel.
Yeah, for sure. So I would, if you could just do it just for a month and just try it out. It's a lot of hoop heads in there. It really is. And it's weirdly enough, I know that we're in the South. It is not South strong. It is very much Midwest, North strong. And that is fine because I get to see college basketball, but so many other things. It opens my eyes to so many different areas. And so I actually enjoy that because all I get is just your Southern people know Memphis. They love Memphis, eat, sleep, breathe, Tiger blue. I want something else. And I get that there. And so it's really nice. Let's get a little bit about former Tigers. James Wiseman, somebody hit about it in the chat earlier. Thoughts on James Wiseman? Can he have a career in Detroit? Because he's kind of the third big there.
I don't think he can. It bums me out to say that because I believe in Wiseman's ability. I just think it would have happened by now if it was going to. And unlike Jaden Ivey, Wiseman is not being punished for any personal grudge reasons. He just hasn't really separated himself at all from the other Pistons bigs. And look, Bagley, I think Bagley and Wiseman can do about 90% of what each other can do on any given night. Like they're very similar guys in frame, in the style of play they want to play, in their college career stories and how they got to the NBA, in their NBA careers and how they've been passed around. Right. And I feel like this has sort of been like Troy Weaver's just collect them all and hope one hits. And in reality, like, hey, surprise, surprise, there's a reason nobody wanted these guys. Like the Warriors taking James Wiseman is going to be one of the all-time what ifs when they could have gotten more team-oriented guys that would have fit them, right? Like, so I feel bad because he'll have a game once a month that just pops and you're like, whoa, there it is. But there's some motor stuff there. He just seems like he's floating. He's never going 100%. And he's not, unless he's going to be your starting center and you need 20 points a night from him, there's not a lot of use for him as like an off the bench big. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like, I don't know where he fits because he's an offensive scorer and he needs to have the ball. He needs to be kind of a focal point. I don't think he's ever going to get that again unless he goes down to the G League. I think it's the only time he can actually develop. But at that point, you go down to the G League and it's kind of like faking it a little bit. Because you could become the dude, but then you come back and you're not the dude again. And so we have that issue, especially like with your guy, Jaravia. He has that problem being Malibu's most wanted, the top dude down there, and he can't actually come back to the team and get back into the flow and hit shots. And so same thing I think that we're seeing with James Wiseman is you got to find your role and you got to kind of fit in. I know we like Jalen Duren. He rolled his ankle tonight. I know we talked about him earlier, and then Jaden Ivey we talked about earlier. Anybody else that you want to kind of pull out of that Detroit Pistons team that you love?
I have to give that sort of plug to Asar Thompson for sure. And I think like nobody nationally pays attention to the Pistons for very good reason. I would be medically concerned about you if you did. Yeah. But what Asar has done early in his career is one of the more absurd starts to a player's career I've ever seen in its uniqueness, not necessarily in its production. Like you can scroll through the game logs and, oh, why is he scoring 5 points? Like, oh, this guy can't shoot. However you want to split it up, that's fine. There's concerns about him offensively. And I think a lot of what I like about him applies to his brother when he's healthy too. He's just not in the rotation for Houston right now. But Asar is a basketball genius. Like, and it's not often that your basketball geniuses aren't like the on-ball dominant guys, but he is the ultimate connector. And at some point, whether it's in Detroit or not, he's going to play like a pivotal role on a championship level team. And he's just going to make everybody else on the team so much better. Like the kid has 16 rebounds in a game. It was like the 7th game of his career in 32 minutes. And he's a 6'6" wing. And his athletic gifts are off the charts, but his IQ is even more impressive than his athletic gifts. He's never in the wrong spot. He's immediately an elite on-ball defender from the wing position. And I think you knew this early in the season. We were making a lot of money laddering his like assists and rebounds props because everybody was setting him like he was just this bench nobody, and he'd get you like 12 rebounds and 5 assists every time he played 30 minutes early in the year. Again, he makes no sense. He makes no sense on this roster with Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren in the front court. But someday he's going to be on a roster that does make sense, and he's going to look incredible.
First thing I thought about was Sean Marion a little bit, and he has a little quirkiness to him, and I love that. Vince Williams, same thing here. He has a little quirkiness to him, and as Dak Daniels said, he is, Sean Marion in the flesh. All right, let's go ahead and take our last break real quick. I do not, Greg, I apologize. I could not get your stuff to download properly, so we're just going to go ahead and use one of ours. But I was going to show you one of Greg's commercials, but go ahead and follow Sleepers Media on Twitter. You can see it yourself. If you just don't click off the show. We'll be right back. 1 minute.
Yeah, because Zach Randolph went into the Blazers organization that had some characters. Underline the word characters,
Right.
okay? He's coming from Michigan State. He's from Marion, Indiana. And then you go to Portland, Oregon, which it's an entirely different culture, entirely different demographic. He had people around him who were guys from Marion. Hey, you owe us. Anthony, one of the key memories of my time here in Memphis off the court, I did a Read to Achieve event with Zach Randolph. And the kid who read the most books, his prize was to get to interview Zach Randolph. And the young man, first question to Zach is, what's the hardest thing for a black athlete to learn? And Zach did not give him any, like BS fluff answer. He said, a lot of times the people who say they're your friends, they're not your friends. And you have to pick the people around you very, very wisely.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, Greg. Last segment is going to be all about the Memphis Tigers. I'm going to go ahead and skip all of our normal stuff we do at Bluff City Media, but I will actually be recording a show tomorrow with Anthony Sane. So make sure you tune into that. It will be out Friday at noon. It'll be live there, but we're going to record that tomorrow night. Sane and I, it should be a good one. We have a lot to talk about. I actually saw Sane tonight, went to his watch party down at Hooters, downtown Memphis. And so met him and some other good people. And so it's nice to see people kind of outside of your normal venue. And so it was good there, but tune it in on Friday. We'll be back here again on Friday for the Timberwolves game, 7:00. We're not going to do a preview tonight because I want to talk about the Memphis Tigers basketball tonight. They did win 85-80. So let's go ahead and talk about them real quick. First thoughts about the program, Memphis, Penny, whatever you want to do.
All
right, we don't have all night.
I'll start with this team more so than the program because I think that's the fair way to talk about it. And look, I don't consider myself like traditional media by any means. I'm certainly not like a big time journalist in this space, but like I do have this awesome opportunity to talk college basketball on some relatively decent sized platforms where I intermix with people who are serious journalists. Right. So I need to be careful with the way, like one of my pet peeves in this space is people that like just hold personal grudges and criticize coaches and almost root for them to fail. And I feel like that has happened with Penny. Yeah. And I don't think it's fair at all. Now, with that said, I like this year's team more than any other Memphis team that we have seen Penny assemble in his tenure. I think this is going to be his best team when all is said and done. The primary reason being, instead of being built around a bunch of 18-year-old kids who are 75% of their feet out the door for the NBA, they are built around a bunch of 22-year-old guys who literally their entire starting lineup to start the season. I know he switched up the lineup tonight, but the starting lineup for like the first 6 games, every single guy in it has played for 3 different schools in their college career. I don't think there's another team in the country that's true of. So like Quinterly's a guy who's won at a high level, even if he's had some head scratching moments. Caleb Mills has been a stat sheet stuffer, even if he's not been the most successful guy. To me, David Jones is their best player. I think he's their best defender on a night-to-night basis. And right now, I mean, he's 18 to 23 points tonight, which is what he finished with. So they just got dudes, but they got dudes that are tougher and more experienced than the quote-unquote dudes that Penny has normally assembled these teams around. And I think that bodes really, really well for them as they get into conference play.
One of those dudes was James Wiseman, so I understand. I think this team is very good, but I will never be the guy who says, I know a lot about the Tigers. I follow them. I keep up with them somewhat. I'm a Duke guy. I've been since I was a younger kid, a younger tot. But I will say that I watch them and I love Penny. Like him in college was my dude. When he went to Orlando and when he was teaming up with Shaq, he was my dude. And so I will root for whatever Penny does, no matter what. And so the slander of the coaching, I get it. I understand it. You got to take away that. I can't take away my bias. And so I see Penny Hardaway. I think he's a cool guy. And so I think he is one of the good, I guess, former players that I wish if I had to pick somebody, it would either be Jason Williams out of Duke, Jay Will, or Penny to have an injury-free career, because those dudes were electric. They were awesome. And so I won't be the professional here and say, hey, I know everything about the Tigers. What are their real chances this year? Do you think they could actually make a real run?
I do. Yeah, I do, for a lot of the reasons I talked about. But I think it bodes well. The best Penny Hardaway Memphis teams have been great defensive teams. That is what has led the way for them. Like, his whole MO is he wants to play extremely fast. He wants to force turnovers. He wants to get in your shit, for lack of a better word. And he had back-to-back years where they were top 5 in the country in defensive efficiency ratings. And this year's team isn't all the way there yet. They're around the 30 mark right now. That's 30 spots higher than their offense is ranked. They need to make sure they know where their scoring is going to come from, because I don't think Jones is going to score 20 every single night. But I think between Mills and Quinterly, like, you have two guys who can, and you don't need all three of them to be hot the same night. So the bottom line is they're in the American Conference. I don't love a lot of the teams in that conference this year. I think, like, the big news is Florida Atlantic joined. So we're going to get multiple games of Florida Atlantic versus Memphis this year. It's going to be entertaining as hell. Florida Atlantic is great, by the way. I know they just lost to Illinois on a neutral, but don't let anybody talk you out of them, including your boys you ran a commercial for. I got to listen to them because I love the hate spewed towards FAU, but don't let them tell you FAU is not a good team, because this team can hoop. But yeah, Memphis will be right up there at the top with FAU and a great chance to win this conference.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm curious how far they can go, and I'm curious how much people give Penny a little bit of a leash. I know that people are ready. They're already getting ready to get their pitchforks out, and I understand completely. But my last question on the Tigers, and then we'll kind of wrap that up completely. I think this team can be good, and I just completely lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you something really good, and I was going to write it down, and I totally forgot it. Man, I don't even know where I was going with that, so I apologize about that. But God, oh, here it is. Sorry. The talk has been around them losing, okay, with their schedule. I know you don't know the Tigers schedule front to back, but I'm curious. Them losing, a big thing was when they lost to Ole Miss. When you're in a small conference, you don't get those quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins, quad 17 win, whatever. Like, I know those are important, but how important are they? And can a team out of a small conference overcome that, especially this team, because they are good enough, but their conference won't allow them to get enough quad 1 wins or whatever. What do they need to do?
I think they'll be fine, to be honest with you. I think tonight's game was critical because Memphis was coming off back-to-back losses after what I thought was a really good showing for them at the Battle for Atlantis. Like, that field had a lot of, I don't want to say good teams, but a lot of teams that were just kind of hovering and you didn't know what to make of them. And for them to get a win on a neutral against a Michigan team that's flailing right now, but is still ranked close to the top 50 in the country. Arkansas is 44th in the country, according to KenPom. To go 2-0 in those games, and who cares what you did in the championship against Villanova, like that's a positive outcome. But had they lost to VCU off the heels of Mississippi loss, Villanova, then you're looking at 3 straight, and VCU would have been the worst team. So I think it shows like this team has some substance to it for them to be able to survive. Memphis didn't play their best game tonight at all. I think they've won some games where they did play great. I think they've won some games where they didn't play great. And that's a sign of a really good basketball team. So they have a bit of a gauntlet coming up, which I don't know that everyone's aware of, but they play, they're at Texas A&M, who won 15 games in the SEC last year and brings everybody back. And then they have Clemson and Virginia at home. And I'll be honest, I think a 1-2 result out of those 3 would not be the end of the world. If you go 2-1 there, you're feeling awesome. Fantastic about yourself.
Yeah, I think they have a chance to be good. I think you can save a season. Not that it's a bad season, but I think you can set yourself up, we'll say, with a 2-1 for sure. 1-2 is fine. You just can't go 0-3. All right, so that's enough about that. So real quick, you have 2 shows coming up with Bleacher Report. I want to hit on those, and then I have 2 more things before you get out of here.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited about it. We are going to be live in the BR app tomorrow and Friday. We did a couple rooms in November, kind of gearing up for the college basketball season, some season preview type stuff, and they've been courteous enough to invite us back. So tomorrow we'll be in there at 11 a.m. Eastern doing our Power 5 conference predictions. So if you want to hear who we think is going to win the strongest conferences in the country, who we got our eyes on going into March, we'll be there. And then we're back on Friday at noon debating who are the actual college basketball blue bloods. And I'm podcast co-host with a Michigan State fan. That should get pretty interesting.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Always a good one. So on that note, one of the questions I have is, if I gave you a bet and you can make it even odds, and if I gave you 5 college teams or the field, which one would you take?
Ooh, I think I'm taking 5 teams this year.
Who are they?
I would scoop up Purdue, and everyone's going to make fun of me for that, but they got the best player in the country.
Your love of Zach Edey is gross.
He's the best player in the country. Painter's
it's gross.
The bad luck is going to end at a certain point for Purdue. Look what they did in the Maui Invitational. Tell me that can't happen in March instead of in November. It can happen. I would take Purdue. I would take Connecticut, defending champs. They're loaded. I would take Arizona, who arguably looks like the best team in the country right now. Oh, then it gets dicey. I feel pretty good that it's in that group of 3. I'll throw Marquette in there, who looked like the second best team in Maui and just blew out Texas by 20 tonight. And I'll go crazy, bring it back full circle. I'll take Florida Atlantic at 5.
Wow. God, you're just pissing everybody off.
Yeah, you know I got to play that role. You know I'm here for it.
So if I gave you Purdue, UConn, Arizona, Marquette, FAU, you would take that bet versus the field?
I would. This season, I would. I think the champ comes from one of those first 3 teams, and I think there's a big departure outside of those 3.
Wow. I am shocked. One, I know you don't love Houston. I heard that a little bit on the last podcast, but I think I want to say, did Carter give them a fraud?
Carter gave them a fraud, which is crazy.
He gave everybody a fraud, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he knows what the word fraud means.
But I will say that I don't love the Houston team either. But I do think that there is potential. I like Purdue. They're fine. I do like Zach Edey. He's okay, right? He's a great player for college. He's just okay. Like, he's not going to do anything in the next level.
I need that clip. I need that clip that's sent to our Discord, all the Purdue fans in there.
I think UConn is really good. I do. I don't know enough about Arizona. Marquette, is always good. I don't believe in FAU yet, but we'll see. Real quick, one question for the chat before we do the Grizz Teller. He wants to know, this guy's name used to be Volcano the Sweat. Volcano the Sweat. And he changed it to Volcano, so we always give him shit about it. But do you think the Grizzlies make the play-in? So there'll be 57 games remaining when Ja gets back. They've now won 6. I don't even know what the other number is. Do you think they have a chance to win the play-in or get to the play-in at least?
I do, because I think, I don't know, man. You can tell me if I'm wrong on this. I watch the NBA from afar with the worst team in the NBA, and I cannot believe how many bad NBA teams there are. Like, there are just so many conflicting interests. There are teams that want to lose. There are teams that are shutting guys down. That if you have a star and he's playing and he's not suspended for flailing a gun on Instagram, like, you're normally going to win a lot of games.
Right.
So
right.
I think when Memphis decides to turn it on when Ja's back, I don't think there's going to be a ton of resistance.
Yeah. As LOL Nope Jones says, easy, baby. Easy. All right, let's get to the last question. We'll get you out of here. We're already over our limit. So, Greg, I need this for a prediction out of you. Our Grizz Teller segment is all about you giving us the winner of the next game. It's against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who we lost to earlier this, I want to say 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And so give us the winner, but also the score. I'll total that up. And so we'll put that out. We'll clip it and put that out Friday. And so everybody can comment what their actual prediction is. If you are closest to 10 points for the total and you properly predict the winner of the team, then we'll give away a $100 merch gift card, but also a free 1-year subscription to the Bluff City Media Insiders program, which comes along with the bells and whistles and also the Discord membership. And so Greg Waddell of Sleepers Media, I need to know, Friday night, 7:00, Grizzlies take on the Timberwolves. Who's the winner and what's the score?
I feel bad doing this. I do, but Minnesota's insanely good this year for some reason.
They are very good.
Like they're way better than I anticipated they would be. They got you in Memphis, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, back Thanksgiving week. Yeah. I think that's the end result again. I think it's closer than last time. It was a 22-point game. I'm going to go 114-102. The Timberwolves get a road win.
All right. So that is 216 points total. All right. So we're going to check that out. And so, Greg, you predicted Timberwolves 114-102, total of 216 points. If it's within 206 to 226, we'll have a winner. Just make sure you give us your prediction. The closest person for their prediction can go ahead and cash with Greg. But also, if for some reason you don't believe Greg, you don't have to. You can pick the Grizzlies. And then we'll give you a free 1-month subscription if for some reason, because he's going to get it wrong, you can then go the other way and kind of fade a little bit of Greg. But Greg, anything you got on your end that you can kind of put out, but anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, thank you for having me, man. It's a blast. I'm a huge fan of everything that you do. You know that from the past couple of years, and it's been a blessing to get to know you. You've always been incredible to me from a personal perspective. So you guys do a great show. You deserve to have a great basketball team to talk about on your great show. I think you're going to have that again very, very soon. So thank you for having me, man. This was a blast.
Yeah, man. He is Greg Waddell. Carter Elliott is his running mate. They are Sleepers Media. Go check them out. All your college basketball stuff. If you want to laugh, if you want to be entertained, if you want to be educated a little bit, go ahead and check out the Sleepers Media. It's very easy. It's very fun, and it's free to look at. Just subscribe.
I have one more thing, DG, if you don't mind. I have a $10 Venmo to the first listener of this that tweets at Carter Elliott __, 2 T's and 2 underscores to end that. Carter Elliott __, tweets the words, quote, LOL, you look like Kenny Lofton Jr. I have a $10 Venmo to the first person that does that and can show me a screenshot of that.
All right. You can find Greg at GWizzy12. And so, yes, go ahead and do that right now to Carter Elliott. I promise you're going to laugh. You're going to love him. It's going to be a good time. But that's all we have on the show today. Hold on. We got a comment coming in. I don't want to lose. Okay. Just LOL. LOL. Nope. Jones had a LOL. And so, yeah, that's all we have tonight. Greg, can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been a blast. But we'll see you back Friday night. Nate will be joining me again. He had the night off. He was actually here in the comments. But he'll be back here joining me on Friday night. Until then, be nice and tell your friends.